Valtan was recently released in the West. I've had a lot of expectations going into it after hearing some of the more popular Lost Ark streamers talk about the Legion raid. Argos did not feel like an engaging fight in any of the phases. Really, as long as you individually did what you were supposed to do, it's fine. Valtan was a lot different with much more responsibility given to the players. The first gate was pretty easy, but still a lot better than all but the last fight against Argos. Just weigh cheese and move wolves away from one another. Pretty simple. The more memorable thing about the first gate is actually the different sigil skills that the raid lead has access to. Most of the time the lead is one of the more important members of a group in higher end content, so giving them access to really strong skills to protect the group, push damage faster, or stagger bosses is a cool way to give them a bit more agency. The second part of the Valtan fight is where I really enjoyed myself, except for a small period of time right before the first kill. Of course, the West hasn't had access to this content before, so with new encounters comes the growing pain of progression. What I do like compared to more typical progression in something like World of Warcraft is that it doesn't feel like you're wasting time on a meaningless boss. You're already to the good stuff. And I can see some people having some issues with the fact that the game's been out for so long, but even in World of Warcraft you have so many guides telling you right before the boss even comes out how to do it, so even with all the information we get from Korea, it doesn't really matter. It happens in games all the time. Overall, the fight isn't too difficult and felt like whoever came up with Valtan played a lot of Legion. It reminded me a lot of Ursoc in Emerald Nightmare with his charges and going around in a circle during the encounter, along with Croesus from Nighthold with the braking platform and dodging lasers. Line of sight mechanics isn't really a new thing, so really it's just a moment to breathe during the fight, and it felt pretty good in Valtan. The best thing about this fight is player accountability, such as the necessity of consumables until 128 lines. It creates a useful incentive for players to do their part so the fight can go faster. The other important point of accountability for the fight is successfully countering so the raid doesn't die, and in the last part of the fight, countering the ghost clone to remove armor stacks. Much of what Argos was missing was this need to perform. There wasn't really any of these mechanics everyone has to participate in, as well as the DPS check. I see why Lost Ark streamers have talked about Valtan being a turning point for the game. We in the West haven't had nearly as much downtime between content patches as Korea had to deal with, so we only get glimpses as why things change for the better. Finishing up this video, I thought I'd briefly reflect on the general Pugging experience from Argos to Valtan, since that's the only way I experienced the game. Argos is extremely easy to pug in large part to the lack of wipe mechanics like I mentioned before this. It's not the best way to do it, however I cleared all phases of Argos in matchmaking early on after release. That should just be a testament to how easy it is. With Valtan, I didn't even try it. I didn't want to waste time with no supports. The first gate is really simple, and with a competent group you should be able to do this with way cheese and no wipes, or at least that's my experience with it. The second gate is way more challenging, and with everyone learning what skill their class has to counter with takes a while. I spent around 4 hours doing it. As a Pugging experience goes, this is by far the easiest game to do it in. I've grinded a rank 10 in Classic WoW without being in a pre-made, which was absolute torture and I'd never recommend doing that. And I've pugged 4 raid tiers in retail WoW, which I'd also never recommend doing. With much smaller group sizes and an easier time understanding if someone can do damage via generalized engravings, looking at gems, and fairly shared card sets for damage, finding decent applicants is much easier to do. If you've enjoyed my thoughts on Argos and Valtan as well as the Pugging experience, leave a like. If you'd like to see more Lost Ark content or my Genshin videos, then subscribe. Good luck on Valtan.